reason that Pakistan is not attracting as much FDI is because of the inconsistency of policy, surprises, and tax regimes are not business friendly, and I think the authorities also do not take the foreign investors into confidence on many areas, which in simple words is ease of doing business is not very good compared to other countries. It is better, it is improving, but it's much. The foreign investor have a choice to go to this country or that country, and why they are going to Dubai and not coming to Pakistan, for example, because it's the ease of doing business, I think, in simple terms.
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of All Things Money. My guest today is Abdul Aleem Saab, who is the Secretary General of OICCI. OICCI is an umbrella body of Pakistan's biggest foreign companies. I think over 200 companies are part of OICCI. Any multinational that you want to work for, it's probably part of OICCI. And several finance ministers have been OICCI's members before they became finance ministers. So Abdul Aleem Saab has a lot of economic knowledge. However, our conversation today will mostly focus on foreign investment into Pakistan. Now, Assalamu alaikum Aleem Saab, welcome to my show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I think my first and my biggest question is that the current account deficit is something that is a recurring problem for Pakistan. We have the current account deficits, the reserves go down, the rupee depreciates immensely, and the economy is in a crisis. We have had current account surplus for 5 consecutive months, but I think this is the last month was the first month after 5 months that we had a deficit. What has been propping up the current account is not exports, it's remittances. And Pakistan's remittances in this fiscal year have been around 200 billion, over 200 billion. Foreign direct investment has been 1.3 billion. So our current account is floating only because of remittances, but not because of investment. So what can Pakistan do to attract more foreign investment to Pakistan?
Foreign investment is very sensitive. And Pakistan, for a country like Pakistan, first of all, let me tell you that there are 3 types of foreign investors globally. One is who go and invest in a country where they see opportunity of cost of reduction, and like the conversion cost is very, favorable, like what it is for Pakistan today, because Pakistani rupee is so weak that if you make the same car overseas or same car here or anything, the conversion cost in dollars terms will be much lower here. The other foreign thing which attract foreign investment is the resources, like if you have minerals, like what we are, so those can be exported. The third one is where they see some skilled people, technology is there, and that's where they invest. So Pakistan has the potential to attract investment, and particularly in these days of and time when the currency is so weak, it is much attractive to bring in more investment. The reason it is not coming is that Pakistan has gives surprises. There is an element of
surprise is a very polite term.
It's inconsistency of policy. Let's put it this way. People when they come into they invest in FDI. It's a long-term investment. It's not coming into the stock exchange that today I'm in the market, tomorrow I get out. So if they're trying to put the factories or facilities or whatever big investment, they do 3 years planning, 4 years planning, and then get the approval whether I should be in this country or should I not be in this country. Should I serve the market in Pakistan from India, or should I serve it from Malaysia or something? So Pakistan, when they come to in Pakistan, and all of a sudden there is a change in government policy, which is various forms. The recent one, for example, you saw what happened with the energy people, and there are many others, tax regime changes. So that gives an element of uncertainty in the mind of the potential or existing foreign investor as it is. So in that sense, Pakistan is not as attractive as it should be. Otherwise, there are all the reasons that, it's a country of 240 million people, per capita income is not bad. We don't see per capita income as a foreign investor in terms of $118,000 actually foreign investor, when they are coming into the consumer goods, for them it is on the purchasing power parity basis. So for that, Pakistan is about $6,000 per capita income. So all these foreign investors, when they come to or they are trying to come to Pakistan, or they have already invested, they see all these potential. So that, I think, if you the question, I've given you a very long answer, but the reason that Pakistan is not attracting as much FDI is because of the inconsistency of policy, surprises, and tax regimes are not business friendly, and I think the authorities also do not take the foreign investors into confidence on many areas, which in simple words is ease of doing business, is not very good compared to other countries. It is better, it is improving, but it's much, the foreign investor have a choice to go to this country or that country, and why they are going to Dubai and not coming to Pakistan, for example, because it's the ease of doing business, I think, in simple terms.
Pakistan has a lot of factors. We have the youth pulse, the democratic dividend. We have somewhat of a sustainable purchasing power, parity that gives us purchasing power. We have skill sets, like we have an educated English-speaking population. We have minerals, but you said that there's an inconsistency of policy. And you have already mentioned this, but just to go a little bit into detail, the IPP negotiations. Those were sovereign guarantees that were renegotiated at, which some people have said, at gunpoint, basically. So what impact did that have on investor confidence?
Certainly very negative. I mean, in the first place,
especially since it didn't even bring down the tariffs as such, because the difference was so low.
That's right. The benefit has not come to the masses as such. But there are two aspects to it. First of all, I think, to be fair with the government, the rates on which these IPPs in some cases were signed were also very exorbitant. So therefore, the government obviously was feeling the pinch. But though nobody forced the government to sign those agreements. So in that sense, I think the government was not on the right foot in terms of, if you've signed it, you should not have signed it. But having signed this, then it is negating on your agreement, and that is something that really had a negative impact. And certainly, when I received the potential foreign investors, or when I received the diplomats of the countries who are already invested in Pakistan, there are 30 countries who are represented in my chamber right now. So their diplomats on a various occasions do meet. So this subject does come up. And I think we don't have the answer. I don't know inside the story what happened, on what basis they were signed or not signed. But the mere fact that they were, as the rumors are, that they were forced to sign, which is not very positive for foreign investment.
I think another hurdle for foreign investment is profit repatriation. Why would they invest if they're not sure whether they'll get returns? And because whenever there's a current account crisis that we saw recently when the country was near default, profit repatriation became a huge issue.
That I will certainly that I will challenge, in the sense that I've been involved in this business for more than 15 years. I've had the exposure of many other countries. Pakistan was very good. Still is very good in terms of remittance. This situation that you are referring to, yes, it did happen in 2022, 23, and at that time, the State Bank had no choice, because the inward collection of foreign exchange was much less than the outflow that was needed. So they had to, curtail the remittances in terms of first of all, I mean, if you have $1 million, just as an example, and if you're running the State Bank, you have a choice. You have a demand for import of fuel, petroleum products. You have a demand for import of wheat, for example, food stuff, and then you have demand to pay for the airlines and the shipping, and then dividend. So in that sequence, I think at that was a very limited time. So I feel bad for for my members, because they certainly this was the most dangerous event which has taken place in the last 4 or 5 years, which has hurt the image of the country quite substantially in the eyes of the foreign investors. But that is what I'm telling on behalf of the government of Pakistan and State Bank of Pakistan to potential foreign investors, that this was a blip. This is not what Pakistan has been doing it, but there was, if you remember, it was the super cycle, commodity super cycle, the war in Ukraine and all those. So everything came together. So in fact, I give credit to State Bank in managing that situation in that way. But the issue certainly hurt. However, let me give you another angle up to this. The investors that or my members whose dividend were held up, they were not necessarily keen on dollars. They were more worried that they had made profit, for example, when the dollar to parity was 100 rupees, 150 rupees or something like this. Because of this crisis, the rupee started to depreciate very fast, and it came as high as 315 or something like this until it was brought back. So they were saying that you keep this money, keep this dollar, credit my account, but don't depreciate it. Because their parent was not very hungry for $1 million or $1 billion or whatever it is. They were more concerned that their subsidiary in Pakistan has made so much profit, which in dollar terms has translated into
a much smaller amount.
Whatever. But by the time remittance took place, it got substantially reduced 50% or 40%. And therefore, their justification for investment in Pakistan got very hurt. So that was the major reason, is not necessarily the dollar. Dollars, yes, certainly were required, but it was the depreciation. Pakistan doesn't allow hedging. And that's what they wanted. Otherwise, many of the, I know one or two of my members, they said that we will bring dollars in Russian Pakistan account if you need dollars.
What do you mean by hedging?
And hedging in the sense that I have $100. I mean, you buy it at the current rate and keep it in my dollar account.
So how would that have impacted
that way, their rupee would have been protected.
So, but that is not allowed in Pakistan.
That was not allowed.
If that would have, I mean, if all the MNCs were doing it, if all the international companies were doing it, it would have really buffered the rupee, wouldn't it?
But certainly it has negative impact also, because all of
negative impact. Because right now I'm like, all the international companies keeping the money in our
because
account.
when will they get so much dollars afterwards? At some point they have to send these dollars also.
And then there will be a sudden shock to the system.
Exactly. So though I think it's a science, and many countries do it, many countries don't. But you only do it when you are so sure that I will have excess dollars at that time. So, but I'm not competent to answer that question. I think it's the economists and the bankers who can. But State Bank didn't allow, because the government of Pakistan policy was not at that time do this. So coming back to your question, it certainly hurt. It is hurting. It is the most damaging thing that has taken place in the last 3-4 years. But bad news goes faster than the good news. So this is going back. Now State Bank has cleared it within 1 year and a half, and right now there is nothing pending, no remittance issue involved. But this news, positive news, is not going. What has gone is the news that the Pakistan held back the remittances.
So the image from the last few years is that the profit repatriation. There is a problem of profit repatriation in Pakistan, even though this wasn't a blimp. The pandemic followed by the Ukraine-Russia crisis is what caused it. It was an unnatural situation, a one-time event, but that coupled with the IPP negotiations has hurt the image of Pakistan further.
After that, I mean, IPP negotiation in the last 6 months, this thing,
so the last couple of years,
but I think you have raised a good point. The point is that when you are, it's a good point that you've raised, that although the dollar remittance was in 23 mainly, right? Resolved by early 24, but IPP came in late 24. So that these two things are going together. So when a foreign investor feel, should I go into this country? Sometimes they have remittance problem, sometimes they have agreement problem. So why should I risk? I have choice going into other
countries.
So, but I think you have very well summarized it.
Okay, so right now it's budget proposal time. All the bodies, be it OICCI, be it PBC, be it FEC, they're giving budget proposals to the government for the upcoming budget. The last budget, I remember the budget speech by the finance minister. There were a couple of things that stood out. They stood out not because we didn't know them, they stood out because that is something so needed and has not happened. So one is, we know what needs to be done, we just need to do it. That's been said repeatedly. And what needs to be done? Broaden the tax base. Please stop taxing the taxpayers. We are taxed and we are taxed and we are repeatedly taxed, and then there are the sectors which are not being taxed. IMF has highlighted them. That's agricultural income tax and retailers are two other sectors that they have highlighted. And some progress has been made. Agricultural income tax, they have tried to pass it. Tajir, those scheme has been, but the implementation is a totally different. So do you see it moving forward, the agriculture income tax and the retailers taxation?
Agriculture income tax, the government has shown the intention, but like you, I'm not too sure whether they will be able to collect it. So, but that's my personal view. It's not my organization view.
Okay.
So I think it has to have a system. And I mean, agriculture tax has been on in our system for quite some time, but not collected. So, will it be collected? Is there a bill? Is making a statement is one thing. In order to collect it, you have to streamline the system. I haven't seen anything as such, and therefore, I personally doubt that it will. It may come, but it will take some time. The other question you raised about retailers, again, this is not the first time that any finance minister has said it. Many different is name. We are very fond of the finance minister, but we would like him to, really lay out what are the action steps. It's not his responsibility. I think it's basically the chairman of BR. We are not very happy that it has not been. I mean, it's already 8 months now, and we have not seen much real action. If it is, we should be taken on board, because our members who are in this business, they are right now suffering because they have to bear all the taxes. Not the traders are not. According to our information, most of it, not all. I mean, I think it's not fair for me to say that no trader is paying taxes, but this sort of scheme that you have mentioned, no, we have not seen the real action. And the test will be the moment the government does it, there will be hue and cry, because like your child, if you let him play, and the moment you say no, you have to come and be disciplined, he or she will make noise. So same thing, the moment the retailers are implemented the way the government has intended and should be, there will be a lot of hue and cry. But I think the government, if they are strong, they should not let this go, this opportunity, because the country cannot survive based on taxes from salaries, businesses and corporates and all only. I think everybody else has to pay. Pakistan's GDP comprises of X percentage of services, X percentage of traders and agriculture. Everybody has to contribute according to that. So to come back to your question, wait and see. No, not yet. We don't see any real action on the trader side, tax collection from the traders or the agriculture. We will have to see.
See, I understand with the agriculture sector, the agricultures are feudals, the feudals are in the government. What power do the retailers have? Is it just street powers? They come on the streets, they protest, and that's why they're not taxed?
That's a lot of power.
That's a lot of power, but if they shut down all the shops, how long can they shut it down?
But they are
after
also
1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they have families to.
But don't forget that politics overtakes economics in Pakistan.
I mean, I would vote for any government that can make all the retailers pay taxes so that my taxes are decreased.
But you are one of the exceptions. Maybe,
I think I'm one of the salaried class.
Maybe.
That is paying a lot of taxes.
But salaried, I think, has been overdone. And but I think it has been done to an extent that unless something is done, there will be reaction.
I mean, the salaried class is not really organized. All they do is immigrate. And when they immigrate, they send remittances back home. So
but that's not good for the country, because if everybody good talent goes, then who will run this country?
But that has been a repeated cry. I mean, I remember in my A levels, I used to write these essays for my A level exams, the cost of brain drain. That's something that has been happening. But because of remittances, even though they are labor remittances, the government is not so upset.
I think government is may not express it, but I think the government is worried and is sensitive to this. But the government has so many things to do. So I think, to be fair with the government, I think they have to handle security issue, they have to handle the currency issue. The exports are not going up substantially. The expenses are not. I mean, first of all, the government has to reduce its own expenses. Their expenses are too high. That the moment they do it, there will be problems. You may have read in today's newspapers that how much, about 970 billion rupees annually the government has lost in the SOEs of this. All of these problems, and I don't think the senior leadership of the government, I have any doubt that they are not sensitive, but obviously they have to prioritize and do what they can do, one thing at a time. So in that sense, it will take some time, but these are issues. You have raised very right questions.
So one of the structural changes that has started taking place, whether it implements or not, is this. I think it has been OICCI's demands and PBC's demands as well, that the tax policy formation should be separated from the collection of tax, because if FBI is the one setting the policy and collecting tax, it will be in its interest to deepen taxes, not broaden taxes.
Exactly.
So, and that is not in the interest of the masses or the economy in the long run. In the short run, it might reach its target. So with that, recently it's been announced that the tax policy office would be different and under the Ministry of Finance, and the tax collection would be in FBI. So what progress do you see there, and do you think this is something that can be implemented?
This is the initial phase. I mean, this has been on the card for many, many years, and but this is the first time that in the recent time, that I've noticed that the government has officially announced. But again, you are asking a very difficult question to me, because announcing it and implementing it are two different things. And we would like to see, this has been, we have been saying for quite some time, PBC has been saying that the tax collector should not be the one who should be making the policy, because each time their collection is less, they will change the policy, and that's what has been happening. Policies are made by economists. Tax policies are made by economists and people high up in the finance ministry, seeing which sector is growing, which sector has the potential, which sector doesn't have, how much, what impact will the tax have on the life of the business, of the people, of the businesses. Will this attract investment, not attract investment? So it's a science, and a fairly complicated. So collection is easier, because then all you have to do is to implement, go to the retailers, go to the businesses and collect taxes. So I hope that they bring the best brains, economists. India has done it. Many other countries have done it. It's not rocket science, and we have good people also. So, but will this group of policymakers have that power to implement what is in the interest of the country? Only time will tell.
Okay, so going on a totally different tangent, Trump is back. There's Trump 2.0. There's a lot of chatter there. Do you think it will have any impact on the Pakistan market? For example, Mexico got a lot of investment from China because of Trump's policies that was preventing Chinese imports into the US. So China invested in Mexico to make cars, and those were exported. Right now we have BYD coming into Pakistan. So can any of those Trump's policies and tariffs be good for Pakistan?
I think so. I think I'm assuming that there will be already people will be working on these type of options, because countries like Pakistan, because as I told you, the Pakistan is very attractive for foreign investors in terms of conversion costs and the dollars, and I think Pakistan is not among those countries which are under any on the radar of people like Donald Trump, that these are big markets, and therefore so Pakistan should be a place for making products for Africa, for some of the other countries, for people like for the countries like China and all those, and with the sort of relationship that Pakistan has with the government of China, and I think, and the investors, I think they feel more at ease here. So it should be positive for us in that sense, and I'm assuming that something like this should be happening already. If not, then our government and our people who are involved in this type of work, they should be pitching Pakistan. The unfortunate part is that in Pakistan, we still are not very clear who is responsible for promoting foreign investment, or who is responsible for foreign investment. Yes, BOI and now SIFC also in some way, but export. Ministry of Commerce,
What about TDAP?
I don't know much about them, so I will not be able to. But if it is, then textile export is something that we have been doing for years. How much diversification we have done in terms of our export, that is something that we haven't seen.
In fact, so much of our textile export is like, okay, there's a revolution going on in Bangladesh, the orders are not being processed, we get it. Even in pandemic, when we got the orders, because we were opening first. It's not that we have a competitive edge, it's that when others lose out, we kind of like edge in.
Yeah. So
even for our rice exports, it was the same. India's rice exports ban bumped our exports, but then when we are actually competing, how competitive are we?
But that's a good comment you have made, is that, why are we not hungry for this stuff? Why are we so laid back and think that, okay, we have this much as an individual, I have a good solid business, export business. Therefore, should I be in textile business all the time? Should I not be on the engineering side also? Should I not be, because there are so many things going. I mean, if you go to US, you see food stuff coming from Vietnam, you see textile coming from India and Pakistan and other countries. Why can't we think in those terms? Why is Pakistan not the largest supplier of halal food, for example? Why should the halal chicken in the Arab countries should come from Brazil or Thailand? Why not Pakistan? These are the sort of things that I'm sure somebody must be doing it. If there are bottlenecks, we should overcome them. But I think we should be doing it.
I think the ground level implementation, the minute details that are required, like phytosanitary standards, for example, that implementation is severely lacking.
So these are the sort of things, and I think there is time. There was a time when there was an export promotion bureau in Pakistan. I mean, I still remember Musharraf had a full-fledged, General Musharraf had a full-fledged team on this, and Tariq Ikram used to be the head of this and all those. So I think there should be something, and there should be some sort of a survey, some sort of a engagement by the authorities. We should be fighting for it, for export, because if we don't improve our export, we will be like this, and 280 rupees to a dollar or 78 rupees to a dollar is not something very, very funny. I mean, that is hurting us. So, and our imports, our cost of living. So we should be doing something more out of the box thinking. We should not be fighting day-to-day, issues all the time.
So my last question to you would be, if you are the finance minister, what is one reform or policy that you think should be pushed through that could have far-reaching consequences for the long term?
I will first of all take a guarantee from my boss that no politics on this, and I will take decision on economics and in the interest of the people. So tax everybody proportionately, right? And make sure that the cost of living for my lowest people in the country, inflation and all those is really well managed. I will keep on my pulse how is the poor people in this country are surviving. Like, if you remember, Shaukat Aziz was a banker, but he would know during his days as the finance minister, as a prime minister, he would know what is the tomato price in Karachi at that day. It wasn't something very rocket science. He had people who will tell him, and if there was a shortage, it would be imported from this country, that country, all those. So those sort of things. So one thing that you're talking about, politics over economics, that has to be turned back. Economics should be managed and in the interest of the country. Everybody who is making a decent living has to pay taxes, whether you are in this sector or that sector, and that money has to be utilized in the most efficient manner, because I think, as I said, there are wastages, there are SOEs, and all those will be gone if I am the finance minister.
I hope you become the finance minister then, if all the wastages are gone. But also because you made such a valid point. I have so many people coming in, but people need to remember that even if the economy is stabilizing, the poverty levels have shot up.
Exactly.
At 18% indirect tax, if somebody is loading their credit, their mobile credit, I'm paying the same amount as somebody who's a beggar and also needs access to his family back in whichever village he is. But that level of awareness is missing. Yeah. You're right, we need finance ministers and prime ministers who know how expensive tomatoes are, how vital tomatoes is for a salad.
Exactly.
So I hope that understanding comes on the higher levels too. Thank you so much for coming to my show. So it was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much.